Hello and welcome to another interesting episode on the program Guest of the Week. I am your host, Christiana Babayo. And like you know, on this program, we bring on board personalities, individuals, and several people who have made certain marks in their different fields. Now, whether it's education, whether it's in the area of security, it's in the area of health or business, entertainment, or the peace business, we bring you people who are experts in those fields, where they share their experiences with us, defining moments, and they do a little throwback to tell us about their early days, how it all started. They also share their challenges with us, and then they give us some of the lessons that they have learned so that we can also learn from them and do better. Now, today is no different. We have an important person on the show who is coming in as a guest, and this person is no other than the one and only Bishop Solomon Innocent, who is now the chairman of the Taraba State Bureau for Peace and Conflict Management. I would love to go on and tell you all about this person, but since he's with us in the studio, why not you hear from the horse's mouth? So we will take a short break, and when we come back, we will go straight into the program. Please stay with us. Welcome back. If you are just joining us, like I said, this is the program Guest of the Week. And before we went on the break, I told you we have Bishop Solomon Innocent in the studio. And now he is going to tell us about himself as we delve straight into the program. Welcome to the program, Bishop.
Thank you, Christy.
So let's begin on a lighter note. You tell us a little about yourself, and then from there, let's talk about early days. How did it all start? You know, there was a young Solomon before the bishop was attached to it. So, let's talk about that.
Yeah, my life had been a great journey. I was born to my parents. Solomon Zabe was my father's name. He's late now, and my mom also late. Yes, Mama Rhoda Solomon Zabe. In a village called Tasha. Tasha was, of course, founded by my father, and it is now called Garin Solomon. Somewhere in Nyabai, Donada ward in our local government area of Taraba State, far back as 1964. And I had my primary education in Katibu Primary School. From 1970, and in those early days, I was passionate about school. So when I went to school, 1970, I couldn't cope hunger because we had to trek for about 3 kilometers. So when hunger peppered me, I couldn't go back until 71. And most of them, they will have to put your hand up your head to see, yes, if you are ear up to exactly. If your hand doesn't reach the other ear, you are disqualified. So I had that experience then. And so properly I studied in 1971 until 77. And I got admission to Government Secondary School, Jalingo then in 1978. Well, from there, we became the first set of science students in former Gongala State. I moved from Government Secondary School, Jalingo, to Ramat College in Yola from 1981 until 83. We graduated from secondary school. And then by 86, I was in College of Preliminary Studies to do my IJMB in preparation to go into the university. And then I was caught up with mission work. I'm a bishop today. All this started very long ago. And so I got caught up with missions. I went into missions. I went and eventually enrolled in to do my theological studies. The present Benson Idahosa University in Benin City. That's where I started my diploma program for theology, and I completed later in El Shaddai Bible Institute. And then fortunes came, and I traveled. He was one of the most frontline farmers in my community. So We used to host people who come to stay in our home to farm for my dad for weeks. Sometimes he organizes kunungaya, and he invites an entire community to come and help him, and he will slaughter cows and eat, So it's interesting traveling through this life experience. And today, by his grace, I'm a bishop. I grew up from being a member of a church to becoming an elder and a pastor, assistant pastor, reverend, and with several accolades of awards, doctorate awards. Today I have 3 doctorate degrees awards in ministry, in ministry, in divinity twice, because they recognize my work. In the early days of the ministry, I was doing a lot of peace work, particularly from 1991, when I started to do ministry. I worked in Gongola Television then. Yes, I was working in the commercial department until they saw my prowess and started coaching me to begin to cast news.
Oh, so yeah.
Yes, I was being trained to cast news, but eventually, because of my call, I had to again leave the work. And that is when I entered into ministry fully. But in the commercial department, I did a lot of things. I was a producer in the commercial programs. I was producing documentaries, particularly on public relation documentaries, institutions, organizations that want to project themselves and their activities. We go to them, negotiate. Yes, they pay. Absolutely. So I would. Then I remember very, very well that I covered the DFRI activities in former Gongola State. Then the commissioner was Engineer Marcus Gunduri, and he hired the commercial department of TTV to promote their activities throughout the whole Gongola State. And DFRI was very profound in those days. DFRI was Directorate of Rural Infrastructural Roads, whatever, Directorate of Roads, Rural Infrastructure, and so on, under one retired general at the federal level. So they used to create roads in different communities. So I had the privilege then as a commercial officer and producer for their public relations to travel all over Gongola. All over, every part of every nook and cranny where they had any project, I had to go there. And that gave me a lot of training in writing scripts and in production of television work. And I became renowned with that because people were watching. Every local government I was producing a documentary for. And former Gongola was vast. Absolutely. So these are interesting experiences. Yes, I had worked with NTA briefly as a commercial officer, a commercial canvasser, really, before I entered into the mainstream. I was sourcing adverts for them, and then they are getting income and revenue, and they are also paying me my commission. Yes, you better do. Yes, you better do.
But by and large, that's a very interesting start. I never could have guessed that you were in the media.
Yes,
now.
I was.
And I can see why you are so vast when it comes to what you do now.
Yes.
So now, recently, or is it recent? Would I say recently? During the coming of this administration, the governor appointed you as the chairman for the Taraba State Bureau for Peace and Conflict Management. Now, it's not surprising because given what you have just said, you have walked the path and you are qualified, whether academically, morally, or in context.
Yes.
Now, I'm also aware that you have written a lot of research papers in the area of peace and conflict resolution. Now, that appointment, is it something that you saw coming? Were you marveled like the rest of us who just saw it and we were like, really?
I didn't know it was coming. I was busy. Actually, for instance, this place we were doing this interview in was the headquarters of my foundation. I was doing peace work rigorously, because when the state was created and I left my job to come and do ministry, there was a violent conflict that erupted just about 3 months when the state was created, and the headquarters is here in Jalingo. The state was created in 1991, and by 1992, December, January, the state was created August 1991, and by December, January 1992, there was yes, less than a year, just a few months, there was a violent conflict that erupted in the state. And that was the turning point in my decision to be a peacemaker, because lives were lost, property damage. I mean, you could see littered on the streets of Jalingo, very unfortunately, lives that were lost and property that were damaged. It was one of the highly rated conflicts that, became a global issue, in Jalingo here. So then I was a young minister, just about a few months, just started my work in ATC. And then we were disorganized. We had to be running up and down, looking for a place to stay. And so right from then, I made up my mind, I must promote peace. Whatever I can do to ensure people live in harmony, people coexist, and people appreciate the values of others and respect others and tolerate others, I made sure I would promote these values rigorously in my life. So because of that, I was organizing programs and relating Christians and Muslims together, particularly clergies. And I started writing books. My first book was Peace in Nigeria, The Starting Point. Then after that, I wrote Religion as an Instrument of Development. I didn't see religion as could cause crisis. So the way I was looking at religion becoming, especially in Nigeria and especially in northern Nigeria, I was deeply worried. I said, no, religion should promote peace. Religion should promote the sanctity of life. Religion should be a reference point in social development. So I wrote that book, Religion as an Instrument of Development, and I brought instances where both Christianity and Islam brought in some level of development. As a Christian, I knew how missionaries came. They brought education, they brought health facilities to our communities, and they brought immense development. So I don't see how religion can now suddenly become a violent instrument. So I was educating people. I organized seminars from here up to Adamawa State, because then it was Taraba. I was linking Christians and Muslim leaders together and talking about the fact that no, we can't accept violence as a norm. It's not possible. So, and I wrote the third book, The Religion and the Quest for Global Peace, because I was looking at the global perspective, how religion should be able to play a very positive role at the global arena in promoting virtues of peace, humanity, and so on. And then I wrote another one, Stop Violence, Save Our World, and so on. I wrote about 5 strategic books dealing with peace building and conflict management. In those early days, from 2000 to about 2005, 2000. So I was able to finish those books and publish them, and they became a buy-in for the state government. I remember then I was appointed to be a member of the Taraba State Interreligious Council. So those books became materials. We were using them at all the grassroots engagement that we did. They became like a resource material they were using to educate the people. And even NAREC eventually got to know about the books. NAREC means National Interreligious Council, set up by the federal government under the Sultan and the Khan president. They eventually saw the books and sent a very strong commendation letter and said, look, your books are very good for, culture and people and giving young people education for peace and for development. So that's how I became an ardent peacemaker, and I was doing it with all my heart. And the little work started as an NGO, something about development. Pambod was here and activities were done here. I remember the first lady visited here. There is former governor. Yes, Anna Shaku came right here to see what we're doing, and she was impressed with our effort. And then, so that was my lifestyle. As a minister, my particular concern was to promote peace and development in society, and very successful. So I was in Abuja then when this administration came in. I was moving eventually to conduct activities in Abuja FCT, and then I saw my name on the list. I didn't even know how it happened, so I didn't know, but I'm sure the impact of my work, and people must have said one or two exactly. And so His Excellency Governor Dr. Abu Kefas graciously gave me the opportunity to put more into practice what I have been doing, and I think it's a privilege, and I thank him for that.
So, how has it been? How has it been? The peace building, because the work of peace requires you to work with people from diverse cultures, diverse ethnic groups, diverse parts of the state, and you need to be able to bring them all together, which is a very difficult task at some point.
Absolutely.
If you ask me.
Absolutely.
So I don't know, how has it been for you? How have you been able to cope?
Yes, the Bureau is now just about 1 year. It was inaugurated on February 27th, 2025. And I came in with every passion that it's required to push the work. As a foundation work, I was going to start a foundation work. For 33 plus years, Taraba never had an institutional framework to address conflicts. And so it was just like ad hoc approach. This, kinetic approach, where you bring in a military when there's a problem, where you try to, you call down, things. But so I came in with my passion. That's why I surrendered the premises of the IS Foundation for World Peace as a take-up point, because there were no office anywhere for the Bureau. It was a young Bureau. So we had to make the necessary sacrifice to make sure that it takes off. That's one. So it provided a platform for the Bureau to really take off. And a 7-member Bureau was appointed. I was the chairman. I'm the chairman. So I used my experience. I used my experience to mobilize the members of the Bureau and then strengthen their capacity so that we can move. We move with some kind of fast approach. So what we've been able to do is, doing peace based on data approach, not scientific approach, not just where emotions or whatever. No, you are able to establish facts and figures about the conflict scenario in Taraba State. So we gave a little time to study, to do what we call conflict mapping. And incidentally, when we're coming in, just to expose us to the conflict scenario and the situation, situations in the state and their level of intervention in Lao and Zing. And so we picked up from there. And then came in the GIZ. It's a German development corporation that the governor himself went to engage with, and then they saw the need because of the conflict situation in Taraba. They said, well, we will come in and engage. And then, but they wanted to be sure there is an institutional framework that they can leverage on. They just don't want to come and do activities. No. Yes. They want to build a structure. They want to raise people with the capacity to sustainable peace development approach in the state. So we became a very darling institution. So they were giving us those kind of orientation. And so the first thing we now had to do was to develop what we call a roadmap for addressing the conflicts in Taraba State. I mean, a very scientific, robust roadmap that looks at the conflicts and design what we call the approach to dealing with them at different levels, community level, and at the youth level, and then looking at chiefdoms and kingdoms, how they can be developed into a robust institution of peace building. So those things became very critical in developing our roadmap, and we were able to develop what we call a 5-year strategy plan. But towards the end of last year, 2025, the executive governor of Taraba State, Dr. Abu Kefas, launched that strategy plan. And for us, it was a landmark achievement, because in that 5-year plan, we have defined over 25 strategic areas to cover and to establish a very strong peace-building mechanism. Our key objective actually is very clear. It's about conflict prevention. We don't want a situation whereby we are struggling with conflict and violence. We want to build a society where conflict is minimal. And that will take education, that will take thorough engagement, that will take sensitization, that will take a kind of trying to build a culture of peace, so that people do not just at the front at the face value of any challenge they go into conflict. They sit down, promote dialogue, ideas, and so on. So we had over 25 strategic thematic areas that are defined in those 5-year plan. And this year, 2026, now became like a kind of a year of implementation. Yeah, so far we have been able to do a lot. Like in last year, the GIZ intervention in Taraba State is about youth de-radicalization. They believe that the youth have been at the front line of conflicts, not because they are the source of it, but they are used either as political talks or in any community. It is the youth that will carry the dagger. The elderly don't. So they decided to focus on youth de-radicalization, and sometimes they organize things like sports for peace. Sometimes they organize things like media education or media for peace, and or youth for peace, like that. They run through seminars and so on, give them a kind of building the culture of peace. And so we have impacted quite a number of youths already in Taraba State in different local governments. They come from all these local governments and they stay around for about 5 days, and they do training either in sports or do seminars, or they are rigorously attended to by experts who try to rewire their mindset about peace, and it's already working. And then we have run seminars. In the year of implementation, we've decided, well, let's build the capacity of the Bureau staff and those stakeholders within the community or the ecosystem of peace building. We have partners like PAT, that is, you are a member of PAT, Peace Architecture Dialogue. We have farmer-herder relations, and TAFA, and then, of course, peace. So we decided to identify them, and they have become our partners. So we relate with them, we invite them for meetings, and we attend seminars together. So just last month, is it last month now? Today is what? Today is 13th, I think, in February. In the early days of February, we run what we call capacity building program for reflective, structured dialogue, because we see the gap in the question of dialogue. People are not conscious of dialogue. People rather want to confront issues. But you see, as soon as there is a thinking about conflict, if you introduce dialogue, you will easily get at peace. Yes. So we in Taraba State right now, we have built their capacity, we have increased their skill in dialogue, and we have thoroughly sensitized them in partnership with NIM Foundation, who are also in collaboration with GIZ. And then these 30 facilitators are going to be deployed to about 3 strategic places in Taraba State, so that they will begin to inculcate the culture of dialogue. We've identified Karim Lamida as a hotspot. We have identified also in Central, we've identified a place like somewhere in Bali. Yeah, and then in the Southern, we've also identified places like Wukari and so on. So we're going to deploy these facilitators in partnership with NIM, and they are going to begin process of advocacy and strengthening capacity for reflective dialogue. And I'm assuring you that by the time these people are done, that some consciousness about the need to dialogue whenever there are conflicts will become clear, and as an evidence of our implementation process.
Okay. So this is quite a lot for a young Bureau.
Yeah, I agree with you.
It's a maiden organization.
Absolutely.
So it's the first time you didn't have any blueprint.
No.
You didn't have somebody leaving behind some footprints for you to follow. So it's impressive that over the last less than a year, the Bureau has done so much to ensure that it is living up to the expectation of Tarabans. Because I mean, we cannot do anything without this. It's become a general.
Absolutely, it's an asset.
We can't do anything at all without peace.
And incidentally, let me interrupt you. Taraba, if you look at the history of Taraba, you see clearly that we have suffered tremendous setback because of conflicts. There was a time people, I remember during Colonel Dixon, who was a military administrator from Kaduna, because he fought the war in Liberia, and then And then because of the conflicts in Taraba, he tried to nickname Taraba as if this is another Liberia for him, because there were times when a conflict will erupt in all the local governments. You either hear the Fulani fighting with Karinjo, the Urukun fighting with Karinjo, and the Mumwe fighting with virtually every tribe in Taraba State had fought one war or the other. And it has led to tremendous setbacks in terms of development. You can imagine, look at Taraba State today. If you compare it with those other states they were created together 30-something years ago, there's a huge gap. Absolutely. Yeah, so it's largely because of conflicts. Virtually, there are, even right now in Taraba State, there are like insolvent conflicts that are going on. And it's like people just ignore and they keep suffering in the silence of this conflict. Absolutely. So the Bureau is strategically trying to address this conflict with every sense of responsibility.
Okay, so let me still touch you on this conflict resolution before we go into the challenges that you may have encountered in the process of achieving some of these things. Now, there are certain cases of this crisis in Taraba State that have become like household names.
Yeah.
Like you said, they're insolvent. People are living with them. For example, the case of Southern Taraba. Right. That is making headlines every day. And at some point, we have become so used to the thing that they killed somebody. Okay. I don't know how we got to this point where we have to clarify that people's lives actually matter.
No, it's so bad.
We are there now, and it's unfortunate, it's regrettable. Now, with all the work that the Bureau is doing, I am wondering if there is any particular intervention that you intend to take to that part of the state, because for now, I would say that we need to deploy all resources we have to that place.
Absolutely.
So that we can see, we should not just accept that it will not end.
Yeah, no, not at all. So far, like I said, one of the strategic area we want to deploy those facilitators, about 10 trained, highly skilled facilitators under the supervision of the Bureau and experts from NIM, the South, from Wukari, Ibi, the Donga, Takum, Usa, and mention them. There are recurrent, continuous crises in those places that we need to address. So, but we also know that dialogue will be at the root cause of addressing them. And so those people are going to pilot what we call a strategic dialogue frontline for addressing those conflicts. There's no conflict that cannot be solved. If people understand that there's no profit for anybody at all, no matter how highly placed, no matter how rich, no matter how influential, and also no matter how poor, nobody benefits from conflicts. So they are going to be like a kind of an enroll into the strategic plans we have. And we have also identified a partner who is willing to strengthen peace building and security and peace building approach or strategy in the identifying Taraba, Benue, and Nasarawa. Because if you look at this geography, you'll find out that they share the same problems. Yeah, they share the same conflict scenario. They share the same border challenges. Conflicts spill over from Benue to Taraba, from Nasarawa to Taraba and to Benue, so on. So this porous level of conflict situations, an organization called Spring, they have developed a strategy of enhancing security and peace building approaches in these 3 states, and they are bringing us together. And we have been meeting. We have met in Benue, we have met in Nasarawa, and they are going to meet in Taraba. And so I encourage them, since largely the border areas that this matter affects, it's in the South. Let's throw this conference in the South so that we begin also a process of showing concern about the issues of the South, and then promoting expertise of how to deal with them. And so very soon, just next week, we're going to run a conference in the South, in the southern part of Taraba State. And it's going to be 2 robust days of engaging experts in sharing ideas, in developing security and peace building, enhancing security and peace building measures in these 3 states, particularly as it affects
Bishop, let's talk about challenges. You know,
Right.
no venture is small, none is too big. And
Right.
no matter how funded or how much support you are getting, there has to be some challenges that you have encountered along the way. So
Right.
just tell us about those challenges.
Yeah, when we came in, we saw a gap in terms of manpower development, that we work effectively in the peace scenario, in the peace scene in Taraba State. And so we quickly paid a visit to the Taraba State University and identified the Department of Peace and Conflict Resolution and said to them, we've come to encourage and to partner and to build a bridge of collaboration between the Bureau and them, so that we can not only build sustainable manpower that will deliver in peace building, but as many students who graduate from the university, we should track them. What are they doing? What contribution are they making in different places in society? So we saw that gap in terms of capacity. And we saw a lot of NGOs are on ground, but again, their capacity has not been fully developed. So we saw the need for bringing in, collaborating with them and opening up the space for experts to come in and to build capacity. And that is already going on. So that is a challenge. I mean, in terms of manpower to address conflict challenges in the state. And then, of course, Taraba State has a long history of conflicts. I mean, the mindset completely, you find that is conflict prone. And so to rewire this mindset will require very strategic efforts. It's not something you can do in 1 year. And it will require strategic efforts at different levels. So the mindset have to be rewired. The sentiments of tribalism, sectionalism, ethnicity, and religious bigotry and intolerance, they are real. They are real situations in Taraba State. And farmer had the clashes there and here, unfortunately. So these are challenges on the ground. And virtually they look like, some of them, very seasonal. Every time the season is coming, you know that there will be crisis there and here. And so this, of course, resources in terms of funding activities is also a challenge, because these days government grapple with a lot of issues of health, issues of course, in Taraba today, we need a lot of roads construction. We need a lot of activities that will bring development. And so government, with the little resources, she's managing to make sure it copes with the development factor. So building the peace sometimes comes last. In some of the government, institutional intervention. Unfortunately, yes. So, but I think the present administration is giving priority to peace building, because, for instance, apart from setting up the bureau, which is quite a robust, intervention, the governor has appointed several SAs, special advisors, senior special assistants, who are particularly asked to deal with conflict, advocacy, and so on, in different parts of the state. And so that is closing the gap already between the conflict situations and governance. So you find people working very seriously. And so we are building relationship. Relationship in some places is very strained. And so we're building relationship through our peace building efforts and so on. I'm sure, give us 5 years, I think conflict will minimize in Taraba State.
That is, of course, beautiful. I like the point of collaboration in
Right.
this whole conversation that we've had, because the peace business is not for one person.
Absolutely.
And like you said, sometimes there are funding gaps.
Yes.
But with collaborations with other partner agencies,
Right.
development partners that are sharing in the same struggle, I feel that we can be able to bridge that gap in no time.
Absolutely.
Because when these people bring technical support, this one brings financial support, this one brings their expertise.
Absolutely.
I believe that the bureau would even move faster than these 5 years that you've been in the bureau. I think that with the efforts you're making, I would give it less than 5 years.
Thank you so much.
At this point now, the bishop would talk to our audience about peace. Peace, the need for people to live in peace, because some people, Bishop, are highly inflammable.
Yes.
I call them highly inflammable because they're just looking for something to spark.
Absolutely.
And then they will just catch it.
Yeah.
That is how people are wired.
Right.
And with the economic situation, everybody is upset.
Absolutely.
You see angry people everywhere. So
Right.
once there is a little thing that does not even call for any form of exchange of words, people just flare up.
Right.
So what do you have to say to Tarabans when it comes to peace building peace building. You mentioned earlier that conflict prevention. I like that term. Let us not wait for the conflict to happen.
Right.
Trying to find mechanisms to curb them, to prevent them in the first place. That's right. Active measures.
Absolutely.
What do you have to say to people when it comes to peace building and conflict management?
Yes, Christy, you've said it all, because of economic challenges, unemployment, especially for the youth, you find people easily become irritated, and even religious institutions are not safe. You find conflicts, irresolvable conflicts in religious cycles. That's what baffles me most. People who are supposed to be promoting peace are fighting. So you find out that they're giving the society some kind of hopelessness. But I want to call on Tarabians. Listen to me. Nobody benefits from conflict. No matter what you say or how you look at conflict, conflict sets you back. Conflicts rewinds your development back in many years back. So I want to call on Tarabians. A platform has been created by the Abu Kefas administration so that we can engage communities, engage the youth, engage the women, and different sectors of society. Please give us a try, partner with us. Let's build a piece of Taraba State. Our vision is very clear. You know, we want to build a prosperous state, a united state, a peaceful state where, you know, we will all be united and survive together through strengthening partnership and collaborating with grassroots stakeholders and so on. So give us an opportunity and let's work together. Peace is number one.
Thank you very much, Bishop. I believe we all heard the Bishop on peace, and he couldn't have said it any better. There's no better way to say it than the way he has projected it. I just believe that we're going to be the hearers and also the doers of what we have heard, because it will not do us any good to hear and just shove it down. It has been an interesting time on the program Guest of the Week this week with Bishop Solomon Innocent, who has taken time out of his busy schedules to share his experience with us, challenges, and then to also advise us on the things that we need to do to ensure that we promote peace. Now, before I take a bow from this program, in one sentence, Bishop, how would you like to leave the Bureau for Peace and Conflict Management in Taraba State?
I want to leave the Bureau with all tribes reconciled and united.
That's a beautiful legacy, and I hope that you live up to it and God strengthens you and gives you the wisdom that you see it through. So thank you so much, sir, for taking our time to join us on the program, and to our audience, we thank you so much for also taking our time to listen to this program. We promise you another interesting episode next week on the program Guest of the Week. And then Bishop has said he has written a lot of books, so I am hoping that I will receive some copies then